Welcome to A Story Before You Sleep, where the same old story is remembered differently all around the world. Tonight's story. The Great Flood. 5 cultures remember the same night the water rose. Narrated by Rendi. Close your eyes, breathe slowly, and let the old archive carry you. You have been the keeper for longer than you can measure. Time moves differently here. Time moves differently here. In the archive that exists between the shelves, in the spaces where remembered nights are kept, you do not age, you do not sleep. Though sleep is your constant companion, the sleep of humanity. The dreams of cultures, the half-remembered visions that slip from people's minds just as dawn breaks. All of it lives here. The archive is vast. You have never found its end. Though you have walked its corridors for what feels like centuries, the shelves stretch upward into darkness and sideways into mist and backward into a peculiar kind of shadow that isn't quite shadow. Each shelf holds vessels of memory, clay tablets still holding the indentations of urgent fingers, papyrus scrolls tight with secrets, woven cloths stained with ochre and ash, carved stones that hum faintly when you pass them, leather-bound books that smell of rain and ink. These are the nights that mattered, the nights people could not forget, the nights they had to tell. Your rounds are always the same, and always different. You light the candles, one by one, thousands of them, small flames in brass holders that never quite go out. This is what you do at dusk, or what feels like dusk in a place where time has become optional. You walk the aisles, you listen. Sometimes you straighten a cloth. Sometimes you simply let your fingers brush the spines of things that contain the memory of thunder, or the memory of silence, or the memory of a moment when the world changed, and everyone knew it. Tonight, the candles are already lit when you arrive, and as you listen, let the archive settle around you. Let the weight of the day begin to loosen from your shoulders. This is unusual enough to make you pause. You notice it first as a feeling, a slight alteration in the quality of air, the way it might feel if someone had just entered a room you thought was empty. You look around, your hand reaching instinctively for the unlit taper you always carry, but it's unnecessary. The candles burn steadily, deliberately, as if someone or something has prepared for your arrival. You continue walking, deeper into the archive. The shelves rise around you like stone cliffs in a canyon made of memory. Somewhere, a tablet catches the light in a way that makes you turn your head, then another. Your pace quickens, not from fear, but from the strange electricity of witnessing something unprecedented in a place where very little ever changes. 5 shelves, they glow, not with reflected candlelight, not with anything you can explain. The glow is internal, emanating from within the vessels themselves, soft and steady. A warmth in the darkness, like 5 small suns. Your breath catches. In all your years tending this archive, You have never seen the memories call to you. They wait to be discovered. They rest in their places, patient as stones. But these five are awake. You feel yourself becoming heavier, your breath slower, your body releasing itself to stillness as the story opens before you. You approach slowly, letting your eyes adjust to the particular quality of their illumination. The first shelf is closest. As you draw near, you realize the light is concentrating itself, intensifying, becoming almost urgent. Beneath your footsteps, the floor feels cool. There is a faint scent in the air. Salt, perhaps, or the memory of salt, or the memory of something older than salt. The first vessel is clay. You knew this before you touched it, the way you sometimes know things in dreams. It's ancient, older than writing in some ways, though writing has been pressed into its surface. The tablet is small enough to rest in the palm of your hand, though you use both hands when you reach for it. The clay is cool, genuinely, deeply cool, the kind of coolness that seeps slowly through your palms and travels up into your wrists, the way cold stone does when it has been resting in darkness for a very long time. It carries in it the temperature of the earth itself, of deep places, of things that have been kept safe and still and undisturbed beneath the surface of the world. It's rough where fingers once gripped it urgently, smoothed by countless hands over centuries. You can feel the grooves of cuneiform indentations, marks pressed in haste or pressed in ceremony, or pressed by someone who needed the world to remember. The tablet trembles against your skin, or perhaps you tremble, or perhaps the distinction doesn't matter anymore as your fingers close around its edges. The light from the other 4 shelves dims slightly, as if they understand that this is where the story begins. The clay warms slowly beneath your touch, the coolness retreating in small degrees. The way warmth always eventually finds even the coldest things. You can almost feel the hands that created it, feel the intent, the urgency, the need to capture something before it slipped entirely into the realm of dream. Let your mind drift into the warmth of that ancient light. There is nothing required of you now, only this soft and patient listening. Behind the glow, you begin to see something else, not a vision exactly, more like the memory of a vision, the memory of a night, the memory of the moment when people across the world, in lands separated by oceans and deserts and mountains they had never crossed, all looked up at the sky and saw the same thing. All of them felt the same fear. All of them heard the water rising. You hold the tablet closer, and the archive falls away. Your fingertips find the clay tablet on the shelf, cool, ancient, pressed with cuneiform marks. And as you touch it, the archive dissolves around you. The memory rises up like breath, and suddenly you are standing in a reed house at Shurupak, listening to a voice that seems to come from the very walls themselves. It is deep night. The voice speaks through the reeds, soft and urgent, and you know without knowing how you know that this is ear, God of waters and wisdom warning you. The world will end, the voice says. The gods have decided. There will be a great flood. Your hands are steady as you listen, though something in your chest tightens like a knot. You have heard rumors, whispers among the elders about divine displeasure, about the noise of humanity reaching too far into heaven's ears. But this is the voice of a god, and it speaks only truth. You must build a boat, Ea tells you. A great vessel. Tell no one. Gather the seed of every living thing. Seal it with bitumen and pitch. Your family will board with you. The rest will drown. You move through the next days as though walking through water that hasn't yet come. There is work to do, and work is a kind of clarity. You walk to Shurapak's timber yards where the acacia grows, massive trunks that smell of earth and age, of decades compressed into rings you can press your thumb against and feel the quiet resistance of time made solid. The wood is heavy in a way that feels honest. You lay out measurements. The boat will be vast, 120 cubits long. Its deck will be level and broad. You can smell the pitch being heated in copper vessels nearby. A thick, resinous smell that will cling to your clothes and skin for days. It is not an unpleasant smell. It smells like preparation. It smells like survival. And as you listen, let the sounds of that ancient labor reach you across all these centuries. The rhythmic fall of hammers, the low crackle of heated copper, the slow, patient work of hands that do not yet know exactly what they are saving. Workers arrive. You do not tell them what is coming. They work because you pay them, because you are a man of means, and men like you build grand things sometimes. They do not ask why. Their hammers fall in rhythm, a sound that becomes almost meditative in its repetition. Each strike a small, certain heartbeat in the vast, uncertain silence of what is approaching. The bitumen is thick and dark, coating each wooden seam, pooling slightly in the joints before it cools and hardens into something permanent and sure. The smell intensifies under the sun. Cedar, acacia, pitch, bitumen. These are the scents of creation, you think, or perhaps of preservation. Your family watches you work. Your wife does not ask questions. Your children move through the days with the peculiar acceptance of the young. You gather seeds in clay vessels, dates, pomegranates, grains whose names stretch back through generations of careful hands. You bring aboard animals, pairs of creatures both great and small, and somehow they sense something in the air. They are restless, but obedient. The boat rocks slightly with their weight, a long, slow rocking, though it is still tethered to the dock. Then one evening, as you stand on the deck inspecting the seals one final time, you feel it. A change. The air has become heavier, pressing gently down upon your shoulders, your chest, your hands. The way the atmosphere deepens before something immense arrives. The light from the sun is dimming earlier than it should. You look toward the horizon and see clouds gathering like thoughts at the edge of sleep. That night, the rain begins. You feel yourself becoming heavier, as heavy as that ancient hull settling into its first flood waters. Your own body finding its stillness now, its depth, the way wood finds the water and simply rests within it. It is not like the rains you know. It does not patter or shower, it falls in sheets, in curtains, as though the sky itself is being wrung of everything it has ever held. The sound is immense, a continuous roar that is almost beyond hearing, because it fills every space, every silence, every corner of the world. You stand on the deck and watch the water rise in the streets of Shurupak. The familiar ground is becoming liquid. The familiar world is becoming memory. Your family shelters below. You seal the boat. The last opening closes with a soft finality. Outside, the water sounds like a living thing, like the breath of some vast creature that has finally awakened after an unimaginable sleep. You can smell it now. Not the pitch and resin anymore, but underneath, the smell of earth being submerged, of soil and straw, and all the small human traces being erased one by one. The cold of the flood seeps slightly through the joints, running down the wooden walls in rivulets that carry the particular chill of deep water. A coldness not of air or winter, but of something older, something that has travelled up from the very roots of the ground and remembers a darkness before light. You press your palm flat against the wall and feel that coldness move through your hand, up your wrist, steadying you, reminding you that the world is real, the vessel is real, and you are held within it. You work to plug the gaps with cloth and more pitch. The smell of hot resin grows sharp again. For 7 days the water rises. For 7 days you hear nothing but its voice. The endless percussion of rain on the wooden hull, the deeper rumble of the flood against the boat's sides. There is no day or night, only the grey light that filters through the sealed windows. Your family sits in the darkness below. Animals shift and settle. Time becomes something else, not measured in hours but in the deepening of water, the creaking of wood, the constancy of falling rain. Each drop indistinguishable from the last, the whole of it becoming a single long continuous sound, like breathing, like rest. Let your mind drift into that grey and timeless space between the flood and the quiet, where there is nothing to decide, nothing to build, nothing to seal or measure, only the rocking of the vessel and the rain and the darkness that is somehow not frightening but full. And then on the 7th day it stops. The silence is so sudden that it sounds like its own kind of noise. The rain ceases. The roar gentles into something softer. A hush that spreads outward across the water in every direction at once. There is only the lap of water against wood. The slow creak of the boat settling into its new stillness. You open the hatch and release a raven. You watch it circle once, twice, and disappear into the grey sky, its dark wings folding and opening against the pale light. Later, you release a dove. You hold your breath as it flies outward, a small white form growing smaller. And when it returns, unable to find solid ground, you understand that the world is not yet ready to be discovered. You receive the dove back into your hands. Its small heart beats against your palms. The warmth surrounds you. The warmth of those cupped hands, of that small life returning, of the knowledge that waiting itself is a form of faith. But the raven does not return. The raven, you know, has found something, a piece of land perhaps, or a floating branch to rest upon, some first rough edge of the world reasserting itself above the water. The world is beginning to reappear. Your hand pulls back from the clay tablet on the shelf, the memory dissolving like mist over morning water. The archive's quiet returns around you, and you are once again the keeper, standing in the half-light among your shelves of remembered nights, the texture of ancient clay still cool and faintly present against your fingertips. Your fingertips brush across the clay tablet, and the dust of centuries falls away, like sleep itself dissolving. The grooves beneath your touch grow warm, then liquid. Then you are standing in a yard of freshly cut wood, and the memory claims you entirely. You are very old now, though you cannot remember becoming so. Your hands know work the way roots know soil. Around you, the frame of the ark rises in geometric certainty. Gopher wood, pale and fragrant, stacked and joined according to specifications you received, not in words, but in knowing. You have always known. You are building what must be built. The smell of the wood surrounds you completely. It is resinous and clean, almost medicinal. When you run your palm across a beam, the grain speaks of growth rings, of years the tree stood in rain and sun before this moment. You breathe it in, this scent of purpose, of timber being transformed into sanctuary. Your lungs fill with it, slowly, completely, as you work. The animals begin to arrive as the frame reaches toward the sky. You do not know how they know. A pair of lions comes at dusk, their golden eyes patient and unblinking. Two bears lumber through the gate you have left open. The creatures arrive in pairs, male and female, moving with a quietness that feels rehearsed, inevitable. You lead them into the lower decks, into stalls you have prepared, and they settle as though this too is something they have always known. The air fills with the sound of hooves, the rustle of feathers, the soft, rhythmic sounds of breathing. You are not afraid. This is rightness, and as you listen to that breathing, to that gathering chorus of living things settling into rest, you feel something loosen in your own chest, a long-held tension releasing, the way a knot of rope goes slack when the weight is finally lifted. Days pass, or perhaps weeks. Time has become strange, thick, purposeful. You bring food and water. You speak to no one outside the ark, though you can hear them sometimes, voices calling from beyond the gates, confused or mocking. You do not answer. There is nothing to say to those who cannot see what you see. The wood around you holds its warmth, and you move through your work the way water moves through a familiar channel, without resistance, without doubt. Then the sky changes. At first it is subtle, a darkening at the edges of afternoon, a weight to the air you feel pressing gently against your skin. like a hand laid flat between your shoulder blades. You guide the last of the creatures aboard, 2 owls, 2 serpents, the final pair of creatures arriving like punctuation at the end of a long sentence. You seal the door. The smell of the resin and wood intensifies in the enclosed space, becomes almost overwhelming, a scent so thick you can taste it at the back of your throat. It settles there, like a promise, like something that was always going to happen. Then the rain begins. You hear it first on the wooden roof, a whisper, then a murmur, then a steady percussion. Each droplet finds its note against the gopher wood, and the sound builds gradually, naturally, like a tide rising in slow motion. You stand in the corridors of the ark, listening. The animals quiet. Even the birds settle into themselves, their small bodies folding inward. The sound of water becomes the only sound that matters, and it is enough. It is more than enough. It does not stop. You feel yourself becoming heavier as the rain continues, as the hours soften into one another. Let your mind drift with the sound of it. That steady percussion overhead, each drop arriving and dissolving into the next, an unbroken surface of sound. Hours blur into days. The rain falls with the persistence of something that has always been falling and will always fall. You move through the lower decks, checking on the creatures, ensuring the stores remain dry. The smell of the wood mingles now with the smell of the animals, not unpleasant, but present, earthy, deeply real. You are breathing in the scent of life sustained, of systems holding together against the pressure of infinite water. There is a steadiness to this, a rhythm that asks nothing of you, except to continue. By the 3rd day, you feel the ark move beneath your feet. It is subtle at first, a gentle bob, like being rocked in enormous, unhurried arms. But then the sensation deepens. The water outside has risen beyond the windows. You can hear it differently now, not pattering, but flowing, rushing. An immense presence pressing against the wooden walls that suddenly feel very thin, though you know they will hold. The sound surrounds you completely, water dripping from the ceiling into buckets with a soft and metronomic rhythm, water lapping at the lower levels in long, slow pulses, water roaring somewhere far above, beyond the sealed roof, as though the sky itself has become ocean. It is all water. You are inside the sound of water, and the sound is vast, and the sound is patient, and the sound is somehow safe. There is nothing to do now but rest. Inside this sound, inside this vessel, inside this purpose that has already been fulfilled. The animals sleep in shifts around you, and the ark holds and the water rises, and none of it requires anything more from you tonight. 40 days, 40 nights. The numbers exist, but feel unreal, abstract, like counting stars from the bottom of a deep, warm pool. You lose count. The sound of rainfall becomes your heartbeat. You sleep when the animals sleep, in brief stretches that feel complete, whole. The smell of the wood never changes, constant and grounding. The the one fixed thing in a world of motion. You touch the beam sometimes and feel the vibration of the water moving through them, a low and steady trembling, and it is almost soothing. The way a held note is soothing. The way a voice continuing in the dark is soothing. And then, slowly, gradually, the motion changes. The swaying that had become your normal begins to settle. The arc decelerates, tilts slightly, with a sound like a long exhale. You feel it in your bones before you understand it. You are coming to rest. The sound of the water begins to shift from the roaring of overwhelming flood to something calmer. The gentle, unhurried lap of water against a fixed object, against something that has found its place. The warmth surrounds you. The warmth of enclosed wood and living breath and the body's own deep heat as you climb. The animals part for you as you move through the levels toward the upper chambers, their eyes soft, unhurried. From the highest window, you see it, the peak of a mountain, dark rock visible above the waters. The stone is the cold of deep ages, the cold of a world before fire, before shelter, before anything built by human hands. You feel that coldness even from a distance, a sharpness at the edges of your breath, the kind of cold that makes the warmth behind you feel like a held embrace. The rain has stopped. The sky is grey but not dark. Water surrounds everything, a vast, still surface stretching to every horizon as calm now as a sleeping face. But you have landed. Days pass in this strange stillness. You open a window and release a dove. It circles the arc once, twice, its white shape turning against the grey sky like a thought that hasn't yet found its words. Then it flies toward the distant horizon. You wait, your heart suspended in your chest, like a held breath, like the moment between sleeping and dreaming. When the dove returns, an olive branch is clenched in its beak, impossibly green, impossibly alive. You hold it in your trembling hands, and the green of it seems to pulse against your palms, something tender and insistent, a colour that has survived everything. You weep, and the tears are warm, and there is no shame in them. The memory softens and recedes. Your fingers are on the clay tablet again, warm from your touch, the grooves distinct and familiar beneath your skin. The archive's quiet returns, patient and eternal, waiting for the next scroll, the next remembered night, and you are here, and you are held, and the rain outside, if there is rain, is only rain. The silk dissolves beneath your fingertips like breath against glass, and suddenly you are standing in shallow water, your feet cool against wet stone. You are washing, as you do each morning, when the small silver shape catches between your palms. A fish, no larger than your thumb, gasps softly in your cupped hands. Its eye meets yours, dark, intelligent, aware. You could release it back into the river, but something in that gaze holds you. Instead, you ask what it needs, and the fish's voice, though you hear it more in your chest than through your ears, asks for shelter. Just shelter. Just safety from the larger fish in the river who would consume it. You place the fish in a clay jar filled with fresh water. The morning sun moves across your courtyard, and you think no more of it. But the next morning, the fish has grown. Your jar is suddenly small. You move it to a larger vessel, and the fish circles slowly. Its silver body, now the length of your hand. You tell no one. This feels like a secret, meant only for you, like a dream you might forget if you speak it aloud. The smell of clay rises faintly as you pour fresh water. The earthen vessel warm from the sun, its rough surface pressing gently against your palms like something old and trustworthy. By the third morning, you know you cannot contain this creature in any ordinary vessel. The fish is the size of a man now, its body muscled and strong, its scales catching the light like polished metal. You lead it to your garden's pond, the one fed by mountain spring. And as it enters, the water seems to exhale. The fish swims in a slow circle, regarding you with that same dark, knowing eye. And as you listen, let the sound of that water settle around you. You feel the stillness of that morning, the way time seems to pause before something sacred is spoken. Then it speaks, and you listen. A flood is coming, it tells you. Not a small rain, not the monsoon's ordinary blessing, but a great deluge that will erase the world as you know it. The waters will rise higher than mountains. Everything will be swallowed, but you will be saved if you're willing to prepare. You are not afraid. You are very still. The fish tells you what to do. Build a boat, strong and sealed with resin. Gather seeds. Every seed of every plant, every flower, every food that grows. Gather pairs of animals, male and female, so that life might continue. When the water comes, tie your boat to the fish's horn. And hold fast. You begin the next day. You fell trees yourself, splitting the wood with an axe, your shoulders burning with a slow, purposeful weight of the work. The smell of fresh-cut timber fills your courtyard, clean and sharp, almost sweet at its edges, like something green still breathing inside the grain. You seal every seam with resin that runs golden and thick, sticky beneath your fingers, pungent and ancient, like the forest remembering itself from the inside out. The scent clings to your hands for days, warm and deep, following you through every hour of labor. You move slowly through this work, each action deliberate. There is no rush. You know what must be done. You feel yourself becoming heavier, your body settling into the gentle rhythm of that remembered work, each breath slower than the last. The seeds come next. You walk through the gardens and fields collecting millet and rice, beans and pulses, flowers and herbs whose names have been spoken for generations before you. You gather them in cloth in baskets lined with care and store them in the sealed chambers of your boat. You coax animals to the vessel. Birds arrive first, as if they already sense something gathering at the edge of the world. Then pairs of larger creatures moving with strange compliance, as though they too have heard something in the rain before it falls. The fish grows still larger. It rests mostly in the pond now, patient, unhurried, waiting. When you visit, it watches you with that same knowing eye, and you feel no fear in its gaze, only a vast and quiet recognition, as though you have always been moving toward this moment. Then the sky changes. At first, it is only a trickle, a small rainfall, the kind you have known your whole life. But it does not stop. The drops become a curtain, become a roar. The smell of wet earth rises. Rich and ancient, the deepest smell you know, the one that lives beneath all other smells. Beneath it still, the ghost of resin from your boat. You move the animals aboard, you load the final baskets. The rain sounds like whispered voices now, like thousands speaking at once in a language older than words. The water rises. It creeps across your courtyard, then consumes it entirely. It rises past the walls of your home, past the rooftops of neighbors, past the temples with their pointed spires reaching toward a sky that no longer answers. The cold stone of your threshold disappears beneath the surface slowly, deliberately, the way a dream fades in the first moments of waking. That cold is not merely water, it is the chill of transformation itself, the temperature of one world releasing its hold so that another might begin. The sound of water is everywhere, dripping, rushing, pouring, a single vast voice that contains all other voices. You are in your boat now, surrounded by creature sounds and seed smells, by the patient shuffle of hooves and the soft murmur of wings folded in the dark. The warmth surrounds you. There in the hold of that boat, the breath of living things rising around you like a shared prayer, steadying you against the immensity of water outside. The world is gone. There is only water and sky, both equally grey, equally vast, the horizon line between them dissolved as if it were never a real thing at all. And then you see it. The fish surfaces near your boat, its body now impossibly large, a mountain of muscle and scale rising from the deluge with a kind of terrible grace. Its horn catches the dim light. You reach out with the rope, feel it grow taut and secure against that ancient solid form. The fish begins to move, and your boat follows, pulled gently, steadily through the flood towards something you cannot yet see, but do not need to. You trust the movement. You trust the hold. The water continues its roar, but you are held. You are steady. The resin smell from your boat mingles with the petrichor, with the deep green ozone of endless rain. And you rest in the knowledge that below you seeds wait in darkness, patient as all beginnings are, patient. Paired animals breathe slowly in the hold, their warmth a kind of knowing. Somewhere ahead a mountain peak rises above the flood, solid and waiting. The first dry ground, the first breath of what comes after. There's nothing to do now but rest. Let that boat carry you. Let the rope hold. Let the fish move through the dark water with its ancient, certain purpose, while you simply breathe and drift and trust. The memory softens then. fades like watercolor dissolving into pale grey at the edges of sleep. Your hand is back on the silk shelf, your fingers cool against the smooth weave. Around you the archive settles into its quiet darkness, and the sound of rain outside becomes merely rain again. Ordinary and kind, the sound the world makes when it is simply washing itself clean. You are standing in morning light, and something in the air tastes wrong. It tastes like endings. Deucalion arrives at your door just as the servants are drawing water from the well, and his face tells you everything before his voice does. The gods are angry. Zeus, in his terrible clarity, has decided the world has grown too wicked to bear, and the flood will come. Not tomorrow, soon. Today, perhaps. The sky hasn't changed yet, but you feel it in your bones the way animals feel earthquakes. A heaviness, a pressure building in the space between earth and heaven. Your wife, Pyrrha, takes your hand. You feel her fingers warm and certain, though her eyes are wide. You have always listened to the warnings the gods send through oracles and seers. And this is not the time to doubt. The work begins immediately. You move through the day like someone moving through water already, gathering wood, selecting the straightest pieces of pine, finding the resin that will seal the gaps. Your hands work while your mind drifts to a place beyond fear, into a strange clarity. The wood is pale and fresh-smelling, almost alive still, and as you fit each piece to the next, you begin to understand what it means to build something that will float, to build a vessel for survival. In a world that is about to drown, and as you listen, let the sounds around you soften, the way sound softened for Deucalion as his hands found their rhythm in the work. The smell of resin fills your nostrils. Sharp and clean, almost medicinal. It smells like intention. It smells like hope trying very hard to exist in a moment when hope has no logical place. You smooth it into the seams with your palms, feeling the sticky warmth of it, the way it binds and hardens and makes whole. Each stroke is a small prayer, deliberate and slow. By evening the chest is nearly finished, long enough for two people to lie down, sealed tight enough to hold the world at bay. You and Pyrrha work by lamplight, and you do not speak much. There is nothing to say that hasn't already been said. The gods have decided. You have been chosen to survive, though you don't fully understand why. Perhaps because you have tried, even when the rest of the world grew careless with its own cruelty. That night, you lie beside your wife and listen to the silence of the earth, holding its breath. When the rain begins, it is only a trickle at first, the sound so small you almost miss it, just a whisper against the roof, like the gods testing their instruments. You lie in the darkness and count the moments between each drop, the way a child counts between lightning and thunder. But the drops grow closer. The whispers become murmurs. By midnight, the murmurs become a constant sound, like someone pouring water from an endless pitcher, slow and patient, and without end. You feel yourself becoming heavier as that sound surrounds you, as the rain lays itself down across the roof of the world, like a blanket being drawn over everything that ever existed. You rise and move through your house one last time. You touch the walls, breathing the familiar air into your lungs slowly, feeling the solidity of stone beneath your fingertips. The cool stone is not merely cold, it carries the memory of every winter it has absorbed, every night it has stood quietly in the dark, holding the shape of your life inside it. That coldness travels through your palm and into your wrist, grounding you in this last moment of the world you have always known. The smell of the resin clings to your skin, mingles with the stone and clay of your home. Everything you've built, everything you've known, will soon be gone. By dawn, the rain is a roar. You and Pyrrha carry what little you can, oil, grain, seeds wrapped in cloth, and seal yourselves into the wooden chest. The smell inside is overwhelming. Fresh pine resin, the sharp green of living wood, and underneath it all the faint metallic scent of your own fear, though you breathe slowly, deliberately, finding stillness even as chaos erupts outside. The water comes like a living thing. First, it laps at the foundations of your home, a sound almost gentle, almost tentative. But then it rises with a terrible inevitability. You feel the chest shift as your house becomes an island, then disappears entirely beneath the surface of something vast and ancient. The water is a roaring now, a constant percussion that surrounds you completely. It drums against your wooden walls, it lifts you, you are floating. There is nothing to do now but rest and listen as Deucalion listened to the voice of the world remaking itself around you. Time becomes strange. There is only the sound of water, ceaseless, enormous, the voice of the world being unmade and unmade again. The water sounds like rain hammered into a single note, sustained and swelling, filling every space where sound can exist. It drowns out thought. It drowns out fear. It becomes the only thing that is real. And after a while you surrender to it the way a body surrenders to sleep. Pyrrha's hand finds yours in the darkness. Her palm is cool and steady. Days pass, or perhaps hours, you cannot tell. The motion of the water becomes a kind of rhythm, almost soothing, a long, slow rocking that moves through the wood and into your spine and into your breath. The smell of the resin has soaked into everything now, your clothes, your hair, your breath. It is the smell of the world continuing, of wood that refuses to rot, of your own quiet persistence. The warmth surrounds you, that particular warmth of two people breathing the same small air of survival held close in the dark. And then slowly, the motion changes. The violent pitching becomes gentler. The roar of the water begins to ease, fractionally at first, then more noticeably, the way pain eases when the body finally decides to let it go. You feel the chest settling, tilting, coming to rest against something solid, stone. A mountainside. The stone beneath is cold in a way that speaks of great height and great age, a coldness drawn up from the deep core of the mountain, carrying with it the stillness of rock that has never moved and never will. That cold steadiness seeps through the wood and into your awareness, and it feels, somehow, like safety. The water still sounds around you, still falling, still present, but it is no longer rising. It is no longer angry. You lie there in the darkness, in the smell of resin and survival, and listen to the sound of rain becoming merely rain again. Just rain, just the world, washing itself clean. Let your mind drift into that same stillness, that same darkness where Deucalion and Pyrrha lay breathing slowly, listening to the water recede, feeling the mountain hold them. There is nothing required of you now. The chest is sealed, the wood is sound, the resin has done its work, and the world, for all its enormity, is quietly, patiently beginning again. Your fingers find the marble shelf again. Cool and smooth beneath your palm, the marble carries a gentle coolness, unhurried, like stone that has been resting in a quiet room for a very long time. That coolness moves through your fingertips, and the memory releases you softly into the quiet darkness of the archive. The light dims, the hum of history settles back into silence, waiting for the next sleeper to arrive. The bamboo strip is warm beneath your fingertips, the ink catching light like dark water. You press your palm against it and the archive dissolves, the shelf, the candlelight, the quiet keeper's chamber, all dissolving into something larger, wetter, endless. You are you, and you have been walking for 3 years. The smell of wood and resin clings to you still, from the boats you have ridden, from the vessels you've repaired, from the endless scaffolding and supports your hands have helped lash together. It lives in your clothes, your hair, beneath your fingernails. It is the smell of survival, the smell of work. Behind you lies everything your father tried to do. You remember Gunn's determination, the way he stood against the rising waters as if his will alone could hold them back. You were young then, watching him direct the construction of barriers and walls, each one higher than the last. The waters kept coming. The waters always came. You remember the sound of them, not the roar you expected, but something patient, something eternal, a low rumble beneath the earth, a constant hiss of rain, a whisper that said, "I am not angry. I am simply necessary. I will find a way." Your father's barriers broke one by one, but you learned something different, not from his failure, from the water itself. And as you listen, let that sound come back to you now. The sound that became the constant companion of you's days, and let it become the companion of yours. Water trickling somewhere distant, water finding its way. Water that does not insist but simply continues. You are standing now in a village whose name you've already forgotten, though you spent 4 months here last season. The light is grey, the air thick with moisture, pressing softly against the skin like damp cloth. The monsoon rains have begun again, and already you can hear it, that sound. Water trickling into gutters, water pattering on thatch. 1,000 tiny percussions layering into something almost musical. almost like breathing, water beginning its slow rise toward the wooden platforms where people have built their homes. You do not look frightened. Your face is weathered now, creased like old leather from years of standing in sun and rain. Your body is lean, carved down to necessity itself. You are 37 years old and you look ancient. You move through the village with purpose, and people watch you pass. They know who you are. The word has travelled ahead of you. The engineer who does not build walls, who does not fight the water, but who listens to it, who understands it. They say you have been given a vision by the spirits of the land itself, though you know better. It is not vision. It is simply paying attention. It is years of watching where water goes when it is given no choice but to go somewhere. You kneel at the edge of the nearest river, this one still manageable, still contained, though you can feel it growing heavier by the day. Your hand enters the water, and it is cold. A coldness that does not bite but seeps, moving slowly through your skin and into the bones of your fingers, carrying with it the memory of every mountain and every cloud from which this water fell. You hold your hand there and let it speak to you, that cold. Let it tell you where it has been and where it needs to go. You trace the current, following its logic. Here, you think. Here it wants to turn. Not blocked, not forced, but encouraged, guided like a child learning to walk. You stand and begin to mark the earth with stones. The warmth surrounds you. Even in the grey damp of this monsoon afternoon, you feel it. The warmth of purpose, of understanding, of a body that knows exactly what it is doing and why. Let that feeling move through you now. From your hands down through your arms, settling into your chest, your belly, your legs. A heaviness that is not exhaustion, but completion. The work takes months here. Months of digging, of moving soil, of creating channels, not dikes, not dams, but paths. Paths that let the water flow where it already wants to go, only faster, only more efficiently. You work with your hands and with tools, and your muscles remember the movements you learned seasons ago in a place you've already forgotten. The rhythm of it becomes its own kind of rest. The shovel lifting, the earth releasing, the channel opening, one stroke, then another, then another. At night, you lie on the hard ground and listen to the water find the channels you've carved. You hear it gathering strength, being directed, beginning its long journey toward the sea. The sound builds gradually, no longer a trickle, but a steady current, the water celebrating its own permission to move. The smell of resin and wood is everywhere now. The village has used your designs to raise their homes higher, to construct platforms that will accommodate the water passing beneath them instead of sweeping them away. The smell mixes with soil and rain and something else, something like hope, though you've learned not to trust hope. You've learned to trust only work. When the worst of the flooding comes, you are already gone. You feel yourself becoming heavier. The way you's body became heavy with years of walking, of kneeling, of lying on the earth at night and listening. Feel that heaviness now in your own limbs. in your shoulders pressing down into where you rest, in your hands loose and open at your sides. There is a long road behind you and the sound of water everywhere, always finding its way. You leave before the waters reach their peak, moving onward to the next place, the next valley, the next river that needs understanding. Behind you, the village you've redesigned survives. The water passes through it, churning but not destroying. People wade through streets that are transformed into temporary rivers, but their homes remain. Their boats need not be emergency vessels, but simply another way of moving through their transformed world. You do not stay to see their gratitude. You do not stay to rest. Years pass this way. Your body becomes a map of the lands you've saved. Your hands know the weight of every shovel, the feel of every riverbed. The constant sound of water, that rising, rushing, eternal sound becomes the rhythm of your breathing, the pulse of your own work. And in the way of such things, the work and the walker slowly become one and the same, inseparable, flowing. You are not a god. You are not even heroic in the way your father tried to be heroic. You are simply a man who learned that the greatest strength is not in resistance, but in direction. Not in holding the water back, but in showing it the way. Let your mind drift. The way water drifts when a channel opens before it. Somewhere in a village whose name you no longer remember, people tell stories about the engineer who walked the land, who understood water the way others understand breath. They say he moved like the rivers themselves, always flowing, never stopping, always finding the path forward. There is nothing to do now but rest. The way the land rests after flooding, when the water has moved through and the soil lies still and dark and newly rich, ready for what comes next. Let that stillness be yours now. The bamboo strip cools beneath your fingers, slowly, gently, the way warmth always leaves at the end of a day. The memory releases you, like water releasing the shore. The archive settles around you again like sediment after flooding, the shelves, the candlelight, the quiet. Your hand falls away from the bound ink, and in the dimness you hear it faintly. The sound of water, patient and eternal, still flowing somewhere through the night. Your fingers trace the last shelf, the one of bamboo and ink, where the waters rose in painted strokes across silk. The Chinese archive dims as you step back from it, the characters settling into shadow like fish descending into deep water. You, the great, is resting now. The flood that he tamed with channels instead of walls is finally, peacefully contained. You turn toward the aisle. The other shelves are already dark, all of them. The Mesopotamian clay, dim. The Indian mountain child, dim. The Hebrew waters and the Aboriginal sky, dim. Only your candle moves now, a small heart of light that travels with you. And you walk slowly back toward the center of the archive, toward the space where all 5 stories meet and become simply one thing. The memory of water. Your footsteps are barely audible on the stone floor. The sound itself seems tired. The archive is very quiet now. This is the quiet that comes after remembering, not the quiet of forgetting, but the quiet of completion. Each flood has been remembered exactly as it needed to be remembered, not evaluated, not ranked, not measured against any other, just held. 5 different waters, 5 different peoples, 5 different midnights, and in remembering them all on the same night, you have discovered what was always true, that the water itself does not care how it is named. And as you listen, the silence deepens around you, layering itself like sediment at the bottom of still water, each layer softer and heavier than the one before. You settle onto the low wooden bench in the center of the aisle, the one where the keeper always sits when the shelves have grown dark. Your legs are heavy. Good. That heaviness is rightness. The bench beneath you is cool stone, smoothed by years of patient sitting into something almost warm, almost yielding. You feel the temperature of it moving through your clothing slowly. Not uncomfortable, but present. A gentle reminder that this surface has held others before you. Others who came here tired, who sat exactly as you are sitting now, who felt the weight leave their bodies in the same gradual way that water leaves a cloth spread out to dry. The coolness does not ask anything of you, it simply receives you. The candle flickers in your hand, a small, steady breath. Around you, the archive seems to expand in the darkness, becoming larger and smaller simultaneously, the way spaces do when there is almost no light. You can smell the parchment now, really smell it. That dry, ancient sweetness, like paper that has held the warmth of centuries and is slowly, gently releasing it. The scent settles at the back of your throat like something almost edible. Not quite honey, not quite cedar. Something older than either, something that belongs to places where time moves differently. Mixed with it is the smell of dust. Not dirty dust, but the particular dust of undisturbed things, of pages that have not been opened in a very long time, and are settling deeper into their rest. Your breathing slows. You are aware of your own body in a way that is not urgent, but simply present. The weight of your shoulders against the bench, the small ache in your lower back that comes from a night of standing, walking, reading. Your eyes are tired, that good kind of tired that means they have been used fully, have looked at real things, seen real stories reflected in the dark. The candle flame steadies. It seems to breathe with you now. Or perhaps you are breathing with it. You feel yourself becoming heavier, as though the bench is drawing you gently downward, as though the stone beneath it and the earth beneath the stone are quietly making room for you, softening just enough to let you sink into this moment completely. You think about the 5 waters again, but you do not think about them as stories anymore. You think about them as the simple fact of water, that it rises, that it falls, that it carries away, that it destroys and nourishes in the same moment. That human beings have always stood at the edge of it and tried to make meaning from its indifference. And that in doing so, they did make something. Not meaning that the water understands, but meaning that they understand. Meaning that moves between them like water itself. Carrying the imprint of each vessel it fills, your grip on the candle loosens slightly. The darkness around the small flame is not empty. It is full of the stories you have just released back into their shelves. You can almost feel them settling, the way things settle when they are finally allowed to be still, the clay tablets of Utnapishtim cooling into their slow silence. The mountain peak where Manu waited out the rising waters, growing quiet now, growing small. The dove that returned to Noah's open hand, folding its wings. The ancestor who rose with the aboriginal waters into the sky, resting there, resting. You the great, who shaped his channels by walking the land with patient feet, sitting down at last, setting his tools aside. You can feel all of them releasing the effort of their stories. The way your own body is releasing effort now, sinking deeper into the bench, into this moment, into the perfect uselessness of simply being here in the dark with a candle. The flame gutters softly. The warmth surrounds you. The last warmth of the candle spreading outward in a slow circle, touching the air around your hands, your face, dissolving at its edges into the cool dark of the archive. It is a small warmth. It is exactly enough. You do not reach to steady the flame. Instead, you watch it dance. One last time, and then you let your eyes close. Just a little. Just enough that the darkness and the candlelight become the same thing. Your breathing is very slow now. The candle burns lower and lower. The smell of warm wax drifts toward you, faint and sweet. And beneath it, still, the parchment, the dust, the long exhale of all those undisturbed pages. You breathe it in without trying to hold it. You breathe it out without trying to follow it. There is nothing to do now but rest, nothing to remember, nothing to return to, nothing waiting on the other side of this moment that is more important than this moment itself. The candle burns lower still, until there is only the smell of extinguished wick curling upward in a thin thread of smoke, and the archive around you, breathing in its own dark way. And the water, in all its forms, in all its names, in all of the languages that ever tried to say what water means, finally, peacefully, sleeping.